Hey, Bosso.
Yes, I'm there.
Good, good. I see you nice and clear.
Yes. You heard from your listener?
I haven't yet. Ashton was trying to get hold of her earlier, so she should be joining here shortly.
Mhm.
You see, we have a first question here from Kahina. Welcome, Kahina. Um, on screen, my shirt shows more. My light green should show up more blue than green. That's unfortunate, but it's actually light striped. Hold on a second.
Yes. Okay? Yeah. Okay, good.
Signs of third times are getting and this marker is getting nearer. Nearer every day. Things are go crucial. I'm in a bubble. Things are go brutal now. Dog, I go down, dog. Things are go brutal. I'm in a bubble. Things are go crucial now, now, now. Lord, Lord, crucial, crucial, yeah. Crucial, crucial, yeah.
What is happening? You okay? Oh, no. Oh, you want them? If you want, yeah.
Man, earth is to destruction. Send me never hold down. I go brutal. On in a Babylon, yeah. I go crucial now. So much crime and violence. I go brutal. On in a Babylon, yeah. I go brutal now, now, now. Lord, Lord, crucial, crucial, yeah. Oh, crucial, 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 yeah. Crucial, crucial, yeah. Crucial, crucial, yeah.
All right. So while we wait for others to join us, I see we have a couple of friends online, and we'll start a little discussion. I'll start the formal presentation in a little bit, but let's just take the time to just welcome the friends. So, Mr. Boston, chairman of the party, you want to say a couple, not your formal introduction yet, but just a hello to the folks I see online here. I think you might be on mute, Mr. Boston.
I didn't hear what you're saying,
Oh, you didn't hear me?
No.
Oh, I was just saying we'll start the formal discussion presentation, if you will, in a few moments.
Yeah, because I just called Noelle. She said she's going to come on.
Sure. But we have a couple guests online,
Yes,
so I don't want them to think we're neglecting them. So I will.
Well, this is why we play a little music to take up the dead space and so forth.
Sure. But I thought we could just maybe have a little dialogue, just a little informal rap.
But Noelle is going to come on because let's just give 5 minutes, 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Yes, agreed. We won't start yet.
Yes.
We won't start yet. She's coming on.
Yes.
But then we'll get going. But I just want to say welcome to the folks who've joined us. And I was wondering if I guess you would welcome them as well.
Mm-hmm. But you were hearing the music, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if,
So let me tell you, boss, I'm not sure. Are you seeing the comments on your end?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Okay. We may have to enable that. So I'll work on that. But we've got a couple folks online on YouTube. As well as, you see it? As well as Facebook. So we have.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. So I see several folks there and just want to say welcome. So Folks, welcome. We'll start the discussion here shortly. But we're just getting up and running here. So if anybody wants to ask something informally, feel free to post it, and we can talk in a little bit. As I said, we'll start the formal presentation in a second here, but feel free to engage us if you will. Give us
Okay. So we'll start at 20 past or what?
Yes, 20 past the hour in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, 20 past 8. So should I play the music still, or should I just see if anybody have any question? I'm not seeing the question though.
I'll tell you. Why don't we just talk to them folks a little bit if they wish, or else we'll just go back to the music. So I just want to acknowledge the people on board, and okay, very good. So it seems like everyone's okay with us just playing some music, and we'll get going here shortly. So boss,
Okay. Yeah.
why don't we do that?
Yes.
And I'm thinking of tomorrow, and I'm wondering what the future will be.
Welcome, Noelis.
Hi, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Down by what's underneath my
I just had to call Ashton for the link. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Well, I guess we can go on now. So let me put up the music.
Yes, why don't we do that? Go ahead.
Okay, Notice you're here, Bernard is here, and we have guests in the hall on the various platforms listening. So let me. But we see we're starting 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes. We're going to start. Let me just acknowledge the presence of God in our midst. Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for the day that you have made and the opportunity that you have given to us throughout the day to do what we will or are supposed to be doing. We thank you that we can meet here this evening to discuss matters of our party in the interest of our country and its people. And we ask you, Lord, to take control of this discussion tonight and multiply it so it can grow from strength to strength. In your name I pray. Amen. Okay, let me acknowledge the president of the party leader, Bernardito, and Noelis Knight Dede, who is a member of the party executive. I'm sure those of you in the audience will see our name here. I'm Johnson Boston, the chairman of the Dominica Freedom Party. Tonight is a very nice occasion, I think, we want to have with you here. And to build up from here, the whole idea is to touch base with Dominicans at home and abroad, to broaden the base of the party, and to encourage new entrances into the party, new members, and to look for ways and means for financial support for the party so we can continue the work that we are engaged in, because you will well understand that it's a lot of work to be done. It's a challenging effort, but we are not daunted by the challenges that we face, but require the support of Dominicans at home and abroad, and of course to build a strong team of the party's leadership and membership to be able to provide that leadership that is required for the country. The Freedom Party is one of the best parties on Ireland, and I am not only said because I'm chairman, We have a good track record. We have served well in government. We have empowered people through education, healthcare, proper security, law and order, justice. We have grown the economy, given farmers an opportunity to be independent and to earn their living, to cater for themselves and their family, to build their homes. And of course, young people have seen and benefited from the work of the party in terms of education, yes, skills training program, tertiary education, so we can build our human capacity to be able to collectively work for the interest of our country and its people. And at this time, the party, as you know, we're out of government for some time now, and the whole idea is to get back into government, but you can only do so with a strong team, people, involvement of people working on the ground, working where they can, providing advice, providing support. We, as an executive, do not have all the ideas, we do not have all the, because I remember Miss Charles as Prime Minister, may so rest in peace, would have said, let's pack away tea and don't sell tet. I mean to say that not one person or one group of persons who have the knowledge and they know all of everything. So collectively, we can bring our collective strength and energy and profession and resources to bear on the work that has to be done for the party and for the country. Now, in every democratic country, a political party is important because you must have an organized body to be able to manage and to be able to motivate and to articulate policies and programs as to where we are, to where we want to go as a party and as a country. And therefore, parties are important, but the membership of the party are very important because you are the ones who keep the party alive, keep it well, and of course to ask questions and to make suggestions to assist the party going forward. So our mission tonight is basically that, to dialogue with you, Dominicans at home and abroad. And this platform, it's a new platform that I will still say we are developing, so we can use to continue those dialogue with you. So we are going to have this as a regular feature of the work that we have to do with the people. We also are preparing to go on the ground and to touch base with the people. The COVID kept us away a bit because we had done some of going to church and doing that kind of thing in the past, but since COVID, we have shied away from that because of the protocol that are in place. But as things simmer down a bit, we will continue to reintroduce ourselves to the community as a party, as an executive, so we can continue to build that relationship with the people on the ground, because the legs of the party is not the party executive, or even those of us who would have been in parliament or in government. The legs of the party are the people, the supporters of the party, those persons who do the work on the ground. So we thank you for coming in and to join us this evening to hear what we have to say, and for you yourself to offer suggestion to the process. And we want to build a viable alternative to present to Dominican people, so that what we have in government can have some challenge, and not only challenge for just being a name of a party or a president, but to be able to compete and compete successfully. So again, welcome and thank you for being here. And I now introduce Noelis Naidede, who will say a few words to you. She's a young professional lawyer, a lawyer by profession, and she is on the executive, a new talent, a new energy on the executive, and I'm proud that Noelis are with us, and I know Noelis can bring great things to bear with the rest of us as we reposition the party to do great things for Dominicans and Dominica. Noelis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bosso. I know you keep saying I'm on the executive, but I haven't gotten those votes yet. I'm not quite in there yet, but I am definitely a member of the party, a proud member. My role tonight is really to introduce our interim party leader, But before I do so, I just wanted to say a few words as to my affiliation, about why I am within the Dominica Freedom Party. Good evening to everybody. Sorry, excuse my manners. I don't think I said good evening. Good evening to all. I was also a bit late, so I apologize for being late. And thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. I would like to say to you that for the past 20 years or so, that is, I would say prior to 2020, I can affirmatively say that I have not affiliated myself with either the ruling political party in Dominica or the main opposition political party. None of them, in my respectful view, sufficiently pulled on my heartstrings or my intellectual strings or the strings of my conscience. None of them really, carried me to the days of my youth when I listened to the stalwarts of the Dominica Freedom Party addressing political rallies, addressing political, social, and governmental issues in our beloved island state of Dominica. I think we are all here this evening because we have had a longing for something more, something better in the political landscape in Dominica. We've had a longing for more integrity, more transparency and adherence to democratic principles, and less of what I say goes and I don't have to report to anyone about it, and a longing for better plans for the authentic development of our country, a better focus, and even a more disciplined opposition, far less for the government. Now, while I have never really completely lost my connection with the Dominica Freedom Party since my youth, in the past year, that connection has been revived and in fact has been re-earned, I would say. And this is due to many factors and players, not least of which is, of course, the party chairman, Mr. Johnson Boston, who we affectionately call Bosso, who ensured that my foot entered the party door. But having entered, though, what I experienced and continue to experience is the enthusiasm, integrity, and good conscience, dedication to democratic principles, and ideas for good governance that I recall from the days of my youth, and what I was hoping to find within the party. I definitely found it there. And when the then political party resigned, I said to myself, well, this went sideways fast. But in fact, what happened with the appointment of the interim leader, Mr. Bernard Ito, was a re-energizing of the party and the party principles with an articulate, intelligent, positive, and genuine individual as he is. Now, you by now might have heard Bernard speak at political events throughout the country or on the Freedom Party radio program or other programs within and outside of Dominica. Or you may not have had the chance to hear him or about him at all. But I wish, by way of introducing him to speak tonight, to tell you a little bit about this quite inspiring leader. Bernard was born and raised in Roseau, Dominica, and like many, left Dominica to pursue tertiary education. But this was not before serving in the capacity of president of the National Youth Council of Dominica. Bernard obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical and Manufacturing Technology from the Midwestern State University in the United States in 1997. He also obtained a Master of Science degree in Electrical Engineering and Product Development from the Texas Tech University, and is currently in the process of pursuing a second Master's in Data Science and Cloud Computing. He's presently writing his dissertation towards his PhD as well in International Development with the University of Southern Mississippi. Bernard is a certified project management professional, a certified professional marketer, a certified quality engineer, and a certified Python developer. Bernard currently works remotely with Texas Instruments and has also begun his own startup data science company called Digital Sun. He works and studies from his current home in Roseau, Dominica. Yes, he resides in Dominica. Bernard has had the benefit of over 20 years of progressive Fortune 500 corporate experience under his belt. He's an economics and social science researcher specializing in the topics of innovation and inequality in developing contexts, and has presented at several academic conferences on the subject matter. Bernard is ready now to bring all of this relevant expertise and experience to serve his country once again, this time in a political capacity. I'm delighted to introduce to you this evening to address us the interim leader of the Dominica Freedom Party, Mr. Bernard Ito. On to you, Bernard.
Thank you so much, Noelis, for this very nice, wonderful introduction. I truly appreciate it. And I'm happy to be here with all my friends, all my executive friends, and all the folks online who've joined us. Welcome again. Again, it's my pleasure to be here. And just a little bit earlier today, someone was asking me the question of, well, how do people feel about someone who's gone away for a long time and has come back home and wants to assume leadership? And let me just preface the discussion by saying, I think that's actually something that's a positive, right? If you set your goals and your aspirations to one day lead your country, to play a leadership role, I think you have a duty to go on to acquire this sort of professional preparation and this sort of professional skills and experiences that are necessary to one day play that role. And so that is sort of the journey. And it's not just my journey. I speak to many of my friends in the diaspora, and that is in fact sort of the general attitude. Hey, we have gone out here and we have achieved some level of professional and economic success. And that puts us in good stead now to try to make that contribution back to Dominica. So I hope that the Dominican public, it understands that folks like us who have been based overseas for a while are actually trying to reinvest that educational capital and that sort of experience capital and pledge it to our country. So thanks for the introduction, and that's sort of how that journey started. As you said, when I was the National Youth Council president, that was the long-term dream. That was the long-term plan, and so this is really this plan coming to fruition. All right, so very good. So I guess with that said, now let me do a little presentation, and we can have a discussion, and we can talk to the present issues of that in front of us. I hope everyone can see that well. Okay, so let's start with the concept. I think it's very important for us to start. With and discussing in Dominica, and this is not an academic lecture of any sort, but I think it's important for us to start understanding general dialoguing with the Dominican people on what development is or should be. Often we think that development would translate into paving a few roads and maybe building a few buildings and apartments, and things look a little aesthetically better or a little bit more built up. And we say, well, that's great. Dominica is developing. We're undergoing development. But I think we need to have a paradigm change on how we educate the Dominican people and how we think about what development entails. Because if development fundamentally is a transformation of your society, right? As I have on here, it's an upward ascending movement. It features greater levels of energy, efficiency, comprehension, creativity, mastery, enjoyment, and accomplishment. So if you're looking at your country and it's not, in fact, transforming itself into creating a better quality of life for its citizens along these dimensions, along the dimensions of economic growth, along the dimensions of enjoyment and accomplishment and possibilities, along the dimensions of creating, as Sen said, freedom in all its senses: economic freedom, social freedom, the freedom to be yourself through opportunities in your society. And if we're not thinking about development that way, we can get misled by those who would claim development when in fact it's just really painting the walls. And so the illustration here of the acorn and the oak tree, I guess, talks to that, right? I mean, you need to start off as an acorn. In 1978, we were birthed as a new nation. We should be growing. We should be developing. We should be maturing. We should be complexifying. We should be producing now. We should be producing acres. We should be a solid oak. We should be a strong nation on the world stage with a strong sense of identity and a strong sense of ability to produce value for the world community. But I would argue that none of that has really happened. We have sort of just gone through the motions of development, but fundamentally our society is not transforming into the sort of society that we need to have to claim that we are developing. There are really three fundamental pillars upon which you build development. Certainly, you need to have an economic engine. You need good governance and a sense of community and a sense of community values that are conducive to development. So what I want to do is just talk a little bit about each of these in the context of how the Freedom Party views this and how we want to approach this. So we have created our plank around the concept of being authentic. By that we mean we want to move away from the typical approach that is happening now, especially with this DLP government, to what we call bling development, right? Bling development is simply doing things that wins you votes. It's shiny new things. It's a shiny new building or shiny new road, and it's the bling, right? And you think that something great is happening, but when you scratch the surface, those with bling really are not wealthy or prosperous. And it's the same concept that applies here. So what does the Freedom Party propose in terms of going beyond the bling to really seeking authentic development in our island? We see, as I said, authentic economics as one of the key pillars, and there are three aspects to that. And I won't go into lots of details. I do want to get to a dialogue, but authentic work. What do we mean by this? We really need to focus in Dominica on where's the world going? What are the opportunities out there? What are the new waves of innovation, technology, the new things that are producing value in the world? We need to get out of our small idea set about what work means and to pursue new avenues of work and creation and economic sectors. Authentic human capital. We need to ensure that we truly train our young people in meaningful skills that matter for a developing country. I will argue that many of the skills, many of the curriculums that we teach in schools now are antiquated and irrelevant and are not really geared at developing human capital, the ability to do value-added things in the world. And we need to really seriously relook at that, at what is the authentic training, the world-class expertise that we need, and the sort of soft skills, the collaborative skills that we need to engender in our population, in our students. An authentic infrastructure. You need an infrastructure that works for that sort of economy. You need to invest in that sort of economy. You need to go a smart infrastructure in terms of ICs and sensors and actuators and the ability to have data and to manipulate it correctly. We need a smart infrastructure that can do that. We also need an authentic green infrastructure. We need to be sustainable energy. It's smart to be sustainable energy, especially in a small island where your cost of bringing in fossil fuels are very high. And then we need to have an innovation infrastructure. We need to foster innovation. We need to emphasize innovation. We need to be a country that builds innovation in. And I will argue that innovation is one of the most lacking things in our current economy. We do the same things. We open the same shops. We open the same. We copy each other's ideas to open an internet cafe or something. We do the same things, and we have to ask ourselves, well, where's the innovation? And the government, a wise, competent government, would be focused on creating that innovation engine. So those three aspects we see as crucial to an authentic economic sector in Dominica. The second pillar is very, very important, and it's a very one that is severely lacking right now in the country. That is authentic governance. We need clear, transparent, accountable, and most of all, ethical governance. If you do not have that sort of governance structure, then you can easily have predatory behavior that sucks the resources from the country, invests in the wrong sectors or non-sectors, and basically have a few people who are benefiting from the largesse of the productive capacity of its citizens. And so that's very, very important. But beyond corruption, you need competent people who actually understand what they're doing, know what they're doing, know what it takes to drive development, know what it takes to drive technology, know what it takes to work in your community to understand the issues and to really try to address the difficult issues. And that is the sort of governance that we need. If you look at every nation that has been progressive and has been able to escape the poverty trap, they've had excellent governance. They've had excellent people. The very best people are the people who have made it into leadership positions in the government. And that's the sort of thing that we need to do. We need authentic planning, transparency in our government. We need democracy. We need an authentic rule of law. We need participatory governments. We need responsiveness. We need accountability. We need transparency. We need the data. We need to understand as citizens what's going on. But if you look at this list here of what it takes to be an authentic, effective government, an effective state, it's quite obvious that none of this is really happening in the country currently. So governance can make or break a country. If you look at comparative studies of countries that make it and those who don't, for example, if you look at North Korea versus South Korea, North Korea is practically on the edge of starvation many times throughout the decade. South Korea has become a first world nation. What is the basic difference? It's the institutions, the governance structure, the quality of governance that has really changed these countries. And so authentic governance is a big pillar of the Freedom Party to ensure and to appeal and to become and to ensure when we become the next government that this is the rules upon which we play. Finally, the next leg of an authentic development strategy and understanding has to be the rest of the community. Yes, the state is important. The state sets the basic parameters for safety and can be a real drive the economy in a country, set the stage for it to grow. But we have to look at the rest of the community as well, the rest of civil society. And so the government has to be aware that that is the fundamental layer upon which everything else is built. We need to build social trust. We need to understand why trust is deteriorating in our communities and how we can build that. Trust among each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt, and reduce transaction costs that comes with having to always safeguard your transactions in any event. One salient thing that stands out for me is the amount of security now that is in Dominica. Every little shop has a security guard and armed guards and so on. When I grew up, we had none of that. And that is an overhead cost to the economy that's non-value added. It's not value added at all. Yet our decay in trust, our decay in safety, our decay in certain values and orientation values, our inability to understand why our young men are failing in schools and not engaging in their academic careers, our inability to get in there and solve that has led to issues of social safety problems. We need to make sure we have authentic, healthy families. We need to focus on health. We need to get the technologies. We need to do telehealth and all the things that can engage our professionals at a distance. We need to get involved in the families in raising healthy children and not only biologically, physically healthy, but students who are healthy emotionally. And so those aspects, again, must be part of an integrated strategy to say that we are making development. Without those three legs, the economic leg, the governance leg, and the community leg, and all of them interacting and intersecting and developing together, we are not truly doing development. But I ask you, if you look at what the DLP has done over the past 20 years, how many of those aspects have we truly seen been addressed? Where is the fundamental transformation of our economy? Where is the fundamental transformation in our social solidarity, the improvement in our social solidarity? I will argue, not only have we not improved it, it has degraded quite a bit. And certainly when it comes to feelings of social trust and tribalism, that as well has deteriorated in our community togetherness. And so in all aspects, if you were to fairly grade the DLP of the past 20 years, they would have to receive a failing grade in all those legs. And that is a real tragedy that has struck us. But we have been distracted, as I said, by the bling projects and the bling development that is being produced. So let's turn a little bit to talk a little bit about a little bit of economics. Okay, let's look at some numbers, because it's easy to say, well, this has happened and that has happened and they have not done a good job. But I think we need to get data. to understand and to analyze and present it and have discussions around it. What I've done here is I've compiled the growth rates for Dominica from 1980 to 2019. Okay, the green bars, of course, are the Freedom Parties. The UWT is in blue, and red is the Labour Party. Now you can clearly see at a glance that the Freedom Party had higher rates of growth throughout its tenure in the 80s. Okay, I've left out 1980, by the way, because it was 30-something% growth. But of course, that is simply as a result of recovery from Hurricane David. It would be unfair to calculate that into the average. I do note, though, that post-Hurricane Maria, the DLP government was out the tout in its 10-point-something% growth, which is simply a rebound, as economists know, from any disaster. That's just misleading. But anyway, I've excluded that data value. I've also excluded, by the way, 2018 data, where it was a negative growth for the DLP. I did not want to unfairly penalize them for the effects of the Hurricane Maria as well. So when you look at this, you can clearly see that there were high levels of growth in the 1980s. The UWP had a medium level of growth, and the Labour Party, it may not be obvious to you, but if you average it, you see the number of negative years of growth and the slow rates of growth. They were definitely underperforming the previous administrations. I can make that a little clearer. Here I have summarized it over all the years. Okay, from 1978 to 2019, I have averaged the growth rates over all these years. You can see that the Freedom Party average growth rate during its governance was 9.72%. The UWP was a 5.33%, and the DLP was at a dismal 3.35% year-on-year growth. Okay. Now you might say, well, these are small percentage differences. Actually, that's quite a huge difference, 6% to 3%. And I've illustrated that to you. Even 2% can make a huge difference year after year over a period of 20, 30 years. As an illustration here, you can see that if you have a growth rate of 1%, over 50 years, you will accumulate, and you started with $100, you will grow to $164. But if your growth rate is 3%, you will go to $438 in that period of time. And if it's 5%, it's just a 4% difference, you're well over $1,000, $1,147. So annual growth rates of percentage differences make a huge difference in economic outcomes and the growth of the economy and the size of the economy over time. And if you look at this difference in the growth rate here, what this tells you is, had the DLP maintained the growth rate of the DFP or even the UWP, but let's focus on the DFP, Dominica's economy should have been twice or 3 times the level it is 20 years later. And that's simply a crying shame, because it did not have to be so. And let me illustrate further with another analysis. If you look at the, let's take another angle on this. It illustrates the point. This shows the economic complexity of an economy, or this is really based on export data. It's not the full economy because internal economy activity is not shown here, but it's a good proxy for the complexity of the overall economy. If you look at this, you can see back in 1995 that tourism was about 1/4 of the population. Bananas and so on and so on, and we're already declining. It was much higher before, but at that, in 1995, it's still about 15% of the economy. Soaps was about 10% of the economy, and some ferroalloys, that was some mining activity, quarry exports, another 16%. This ICT here is really more services, some support service ICT things. But the point is, there was a decent balance to the economy, and it actually had productive sectors. And what I mean by productive sectors is originally manufacturing production, like banana production, agricultural production, manufacturing production, soaps, and mining, and so forth. There was an economic engine. Now, when we come to 2016, we see that has dramatically changed. If we look at the size, the yellow is agriculture. It has diminished dramatically. And really, the only thing is travel and tourism has expanded. Well, it hasn't really expanded. It's a percentage thing. So it now occupies a large percentage of our economy. Now, I don't have an inherent problem with tourism, but we must understand that tourism itself is not considered to be a sort of economic engine that's sustainable and productive. In order to do that, to have an independent, productive economy, you need to make things of value. You need to produce value that the rest of the world will pay you for. Tourism is a rent economy. We only get that revenue because we have a beautiful country and people come to see it, and therefore we collect on that. We got lucky, but that does not build a productive, independent country, as we have seen during COVID. Because as soon as people no longer visit you for whatever reason, natural disasters and so on, then your whole economy collapses. So it's not a sustainable thing. And it is no way to build this sort of know-how that you need to be a first world country. As I said, yes, serving drinks alone, and I don't mean to be disparaging at all. Tourism is important, but you have to understand it does not drive the sort of advanced skill sets that we need to really drive a very progressive 21st century country. I embrace tourism. We need to do tourism, but I think we need to do smart tourism. We need to do tourism for researchers. We need to do tourism based on geographics. We need to redefine so that we have value-added work. People who understand geology and botany and so on, developed within our country to be part of that tourism, or to do niche tourism in very interesting experiential development ways, not simply the sun, sand, and sea. Non-value added in terms of skill set development tourism. Let me make that clear. But the main point of this slide is simply to show we have lost the economic engine. It's passport sales and travel when people feel like visiting us for a drink is all we really do at this point in our economic history, and that's just very, very unfortunate. All of this adds up, I think, in this graph that I've put together here, showing the GDP per capita growth in China as an illustrative country and Dominica. Now, I chose China for a particular reason, because China and I have, and Dominica, we have this joint 1978 rebirth, as it were, right? Dominica attained independence in 1978, and China completely reformed its economy, its approach in 1978 to liberalize the economy. They finally understood that the world had changed, that ideas, knowledge, innovation, and investment in those technologies was the way forward, and they made that change starting in 1978 to liberalize the economy. And Dominica, of course, became independence at that same time. And so what happened since then? Okay. Now, in 1978, our GDP per capita was $759 US. China was $156. We were 4 times as rich when we started off than China. Today, China is almost getting ready to eclipse us at 2x. They're 1.5x. In fact, this is 2019 data. They're ahead of that now. They will soon be 2x richer than us. Now, that's a country of 1.4 billion people. 1.4 billion people, and on average, each of these individuals have an earnings in US dollars twice those of the average Dominican, or any Dominican on average. Okay, so they have done an incredible thing here. Now we have put it along and grown a bit, as I said, incrementally. A lot of that is growth driven by the 1980s by the Freedom Party government. Right here is about where I have this arrow here is about where the Labour government took over. Now, something very interesting happened here, as you can see. China skyrocketed. China skyrocketed into the position of actually becoming the second largest economy in the world. It started right here at this inflection point. So what happened? Well, the world changed. The world went digital. It was possible now to do many things and to interact and to have teams and to build things across countries via the internet, via all sorts of ICT technologies, the ability to do things with improved microchips and so on. The world fundamentally changed in the year 2000, 1998 to 2000. But we slept. We had no awareness. We had no interest. We had no ability to jump onto that bandwagon. but China did. And there's no inherent reason why we couldn't. But we had scared by then. We had an administration that simply didn't get it, wasn't able to get it, maybe wasn't competent to get it, but certainly seemed to have misaligned incentives as to what is most important and where to invest our money and how to pursue development. But China did, and the world changed, and they took advantage of it, and here we are. So I pose the question, and I put this here, and please don't get too hung up on this. I know it's certainly not Roseau, and it's not green enough. We need a lot more green in the background. We will be an eco-friendly nation. But the point is, well, why not? In 2048, when we're 75 years independent, why not have this concept of a vibrant first world nation? Now, what is fundamentally stopping us? We have bright, educated people. We have the capacity to do these things. We have a small country. We do not have to provide for 1.4 billion people. We provide for less than 70,000 people. And in fact, out of that, half of that is under the age of 15. And so we're really looking at the 25,000 people to really find jobs for, to create a thriving, prosperous nation. So why not? And it's not a pipe dream, you know. It's not a pipe dream. Other countries have done it. This picture I'm showing here is Shenzhen. Then and now, they were a small fishing community, growing rice in rice paddies, hardly a building to show, small huts and so forth. When in 1978, they established an economic zone and opened up and liberalized the economy. And now from 1970 to now, look at the transformation of Shenzhen. Now, I've been to that city. It's an awesome city, high energy, lots of young people, lots of industry. It's probably one of the top 5 cities in the world, a mega city now. And all of that has happened from 1978, when we started off. So there is no fundamental reason these things cannot happen. Again, we say, well, it is China and they have so many billions of people, but that's actually a blessing for us, not a curse. So how do we get there? Now, I think we have to do something a bit radical, because we have lost 20 years. We have lost the past 20 years under the DLP administration and Mr. Skerritt. We have lost that. So we have to do something radical in order to catch up and in order to get back on track and leapfrog ourselves forward. Now, we have to understand that the world has changed again. In the year 2000, it went digital, it went ICT and all of that stuff, but it is now changed in the last couple of years. It's changed again. And now we have a second opportunity to jump on the new wave. And what is that new wave? Well, that new wave is what's called the 4th Industrial Revolution. And the 4th Industrial Revolution means we're using data to do smart things. We're smartifying the world, okay? Cloud computing, additive manufacturing, which means things like 3D printing, data science, Internet of Things, where everything in your house is smart, where your refrigerator can order its own food when it runs low. Those sort of areas is where the world is going now. And that, I think, is what any smart government of a small developing country that has smart people, capable people. We excel as Dominicans in school, in high school. I don't think we're taught the right things, but we learn, we show we have the ability to learn them well. We excel in university, we excel in the world, we excel in industry, we excel in the metropolitan areas. They are gifted, talented Dominicans doing great and wonderful things in many companies all around the world. We have the capacity to do this. Okay, so we have to believe in ourselves that we can play in those areas and tell our economy to do this. Now, this does not mean everyone needs to become some sort of super scientist here or some IT guy or something. We are building what we call a fundamental engine. It's the engine that drives the rest of the economy. But of course, you're going to need all the service sectors around it. There's spillover effects. So our agriculture will benefit when we have people willing to pay more money for more food and can provide markets for farmers. For all the service industries, the beauticians, for all the entertainment industry, for the education sector, for the improvement of the taxes that will come for this, the improvement to hire new folks in the government. And so every industry and every skill set and every person employed in different areas will benefit. But what I am talking about here is not transforming everyone into these sectors, but we have to identify a pivotal core. We have to identify what is the value creating engine of Dominica. And I say to you that this is where we need to be playing. And as I said, here are the sort of things that we need to blame. And here's the most fundamental problem. Now, I hear the government talk a little bit about the digital economy and wanting to transition to that. But in reality, they are not capable of doing it. I have had discussions with those folks. I have gauged the level of understanding of those technologies, the level of understanding of the socio infrastructure it takes, the sort of teamwork, the sort of leadership, flat leadership, and so on. And they're simply not, in my mind, ready to do so. Nor truly are they truly vested in this. It's just a buzzword to them. But it is the reality that we need to focus on which the DFP as a government will focus on, will bring in the right people, will have the sort of government that understands these things. This is the 21st century. We need good, capable, intelligent people in government that understand these things. Understand the economy, understands what it takes to develop a developing country. A developing country is not an easy thing to make happen. You need people who are turnaround specialists here. You need people who understand how to grow and develop business and entrepreneurship and understand how all these things interact. You need very capable people. And the mantra of Singapore, who went from third to first in about the same time as China did, even more spectacularly, actually, their mantra was get the best people in the government, get the best people in the government. Their prime minister was once touted to be one of the top mathematicians that was attending Harvard at the time when he attended. So you need to recruit and create an environment that brings in capable, competent people who can truly transform our government and our country and our nation. But we need to identify a fundamental core and build that. So that said, clearly we need to get away from the DLP style development, right? So the DLP gets fat, top leaders get fat, and a few dollars trickle down, and things are so desperate that people see those handouts as very important. They develop loyalty, people get to depend on it, and we putter along. But that does not fundamentally transform our country. And I fundamentally believe that we have the capacity, we have the people, we have the capability, we have intelligent people on this island. And we putter along because we simply do not get the sort of leadership and that can work on the cultural values we need to make progress. So what's the vision? As we say it as a party, our dream should be nothing less than becoming a first world nation in the next 30 years. We need to shoot for the stars, and if we fail, we'll hit the moon and we'll be very well off. The DFP, this should be the DLP, has a failure of imagination and competence to get us there in the past 20 years. They've simply failed. They've had no imagination whatsoever. They've had no initiative. Every initiative that seemed promising, I said, hey, that should be interesting, like Creed. Yes, if you could get this sort of green economy moving and going, it would happen. Yes, the abattoir, if we could get our self-sustainability in protein, that would be wonderful. The cocoa initiative, if that could happen, that would be fine. We could have a real market for our, but they also said, let's get the ICT thing going and work with the Indian government to develop an ICT center of excellence. I was excited about that. I was quite willing to help with that. But all of those initiatives have simply failed because the DLP simply doesn't have the competence, nor does it have, more importantly, the motivation or the incentive to create that sort of dynamic economy that creates economic independence for people who will then vote on policy, on issues, vote for a government that advances their dreams, rather than vote for a government that keeps them government because that's the only way they can get by. And it's simply a matter of misaligned incentives. So I want to end here and invite all of you to share that vision with us, to believe in that vision, because it is true that it can happen. It is not a pipe dream. Dominica is not a very big economy. The budget of Dominica is less than several departments of my company. And what that says is, with good vision, with people that are competent, who are focused on this, with all of us here, because all of you attending tonight are people of in my mind, integrity, people who understand we can do better, we can do differently, people who believes that one day we can build the shining cities in the sea, one day we can be a prosperous nation where we live in happiness with our own Creole culture incorporated into wealth and so forth. And we see year after year that dream dies in our heart. It goes from being a dream, it goes from being a hidden pain. And so I ask you, I invite you to get excited about these possibilities and to join us in this journey. I think if we get a movement going, if we get Dominicans aligned behind this, we can transform our country. It's something we know that could always have happened, and it's time that it did. Thanks. So we'll just open it up and have folks put their thoughts there. I see we have had several comments here. So let's just jump right into it. I see Kalai posted, I'm certainly enjoying this. One day Dominica will ride like the proverbial phoenix. Well, Kalai, that is certainly what we hope. I think it can, but it takes a certain approach. It takes a certain dedication. It takes hardworking people, committed people who understand what they're doing and do it selflessly. And I believe if we can finally get back to what that sort of culture, political culture, where we're focused together as Dominicans on building our country together, I think we can certainly rise, as you say, like a phoenix. And it's a dream we must keep alive, and it's a dream that's a real possibility.
Because unless we can motivate our people to work together, to build together, have a sense of belonging, a sense of independence, then we're just a country spinning top in the mud. Now, I saw somebody earlier on some chat a young guy was making a presentation, and he was really cautioning young people about Dominica, and he was trying to get them to understand how this government works, is to demotivate you by not growing the economy and creating jobs, but think a little handout there and over there is what you need to survive. So therefore, you're forever grateful to them. By the same vein, you were saying the Dominicans to be very careful, to young people in particular, very careful, because Dominica is not for you. I think Dominica is for all of us, including our young people, because the continuity of your country's development, growth, and existence will belong and rely on the young people. Continuity when the older of us will get out of the way. The young people have to be right there to not even wait until we get out to join with us to make it happen. But we have to have, as Bernard said, a government that understands it is not governing for itself, it is governing for the people. And the people do not need sympathy and handout. They need jobs, they need opportunities, they need training, they need education. They need an economy that is strong, that can encourage investors to create jobs for them to work and earn their living. It's so nice when the month end or the fortnight, you get your paycheck and you can do what you want with it, rather than you have to wait in line to get a few dollars, and it will end and come back another time. If you feel small and beaten when that happens.
Certainly. Now, how is the audio? I got a text. Someone said that they're having The audio is not coming through very clearly. I'm not sure if it's just them or a general problem.
Well, I'm
But
hearing
anyway,
clearly. I don't know. I'm hearing clearly.
okay. Actually, the person texted and said it's fine now. So I think
Okay.
it's okay. Very good. So I think the floor is open for any of the panelists to add their voices or any comments, or to just take questions from the floor, and we'll take it from there. We have a question. What are some of the things the Freedom Party are planning to do to get the young people and general public excited and active in their governance, help them feel empowered? It's interesting that you said that. I was just texting with a young person who's interested in the party just earlier, and yesterday I spoke to a young lady who was very impressive. About she's a political science major and very interested in pushing Dominica into good governance. What I would say, Lennon, is this: what I talked about there is the key, right? It is about how do we create an economy that young people see a future in. I would argue that right now, young people do not see a future in Dominica. You go off to study geology, and I say that because I know you did, Lennon. You go off to study, many of the current fields that are out there now, because the world has changed, and what is being studied and what folks know is generating income, or the skills of the future. What they're studying out there, they see no way to implement that in Dominica, right? How to utilize that. So the first thing we have to do is to create an ecosystem that these young people can plug into. If there's a young guy who studies cloud computing, or he studies e-commerce, that he sees the possibility of an ecosystem where he can create his own business, or he can work for a company, or he can work in an organization that's contracting with people in the United States, so he can live in Dominica and he can work remotely. In this day of the internet and just virtual world, folks can work productively in Dominica, and companies can form here to get work from the United States in those areas, in all kinds of areas: architecture, whatever you may have, design, analytics, insurance, and a whole host of things. We have actually let India, on the other side of the world, leapfrog into that space, and is doing all that work for the United States. And we sit right here, lovely island, where folks from the United States would love to come down and spend a few weeks working with their colleagues who are down here, and we do not jump on that. So I think creating an environment that allows young people to utilize the skills that they spend a lot of money earning is key. We also need to make them feel empowered, that they can build the nation, and they're a key integral part of it: building the economy, building the nation, being part of government. As I said, the young people that I speak to, I mean, they just get me so excited on the possibilities and how far ahead they're thinking. And I think giving them a seat at the table, a meaningful seat, and giving them a meaningful economic prospects is the way to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to say as well, in answer to that question, Lennon, Bernard alluded to it earlier, but what do we teach our kids in school? What do we teach our children in school? Young people don't identify with the government. They see the government, they see government governing politics. They see that as something that is just outside of them and something that they cannot identify with, that they have no connection with. We preach it every single year. I hear it all the time. We should teach civics in school, And it is so extremely important that we do so. And it's brushed over all the time. Civics has to be taught in school. That's the only way young people can identify with the government. If they understand it, they need to understand what it is the government is doing for them. Civics teaches them their rights, their responsibilities, the Constitution, the way the country is governed. This is just not taught in schools at all. They have no idea. They get out there and they learn it, by the by. This has to be taught in schools. It has to be there so that our children, our youth know what it is, they can identify with it, they grow into adults, and they can be involved. And they say, I know what this is about. I was taught it in school, so I can be involved. I can let my voice heard to the government because I understand it. You know, if they don't understand it, they wouldn't care. You know, and then again, as the party leader said, if they see the government doing things that they can identify with, doing modern things, you know, doing things that they learn about, that they watch on TV, and they say, oh my God, you know, the fourth industrial revolution that Bernard is speaking about, they need to see that. If they see the government doing these things that they know about, that they're educated about, then they say, yeah, I can identify with that. I can be involved in that.
First of all, we have to depoliticize the way in which we make scholarships available to young people. That is not a scholarship that belongs to the prime minister or ministers. A scholarship belongs to the state, and therefore the state is equipping you so that you can fend for yourself as a young person, and you can contribute to the growth of your country, and you can cater for your family as we build families and community. Now, I came from a government that I served in from 1990 to 95, and there were policies on things like that. So in the budget, you would cater for scholarships, people to, you know, to be assisted to go abroad and study. You had a number of other agencies that would make scholarships available to young people. You had the aid bank, you had the social security, and all of these areas, including government. So those who did not get a government scholarship to travel to study, they had an opportunity for an aid bank or social security scholarship. And even some businesses like Dominic and so on would provide scholarships for persons to go and study probably what they may want them to study to come back to strengthen their business, their capacity. Now, since this government came in, these have fallen apart. And as the party leader said earlier on, this bling approach to development is something where they danced in your face and you got a scholarship, but you're not sure if you will complete your studies. And you see for election, you must come back and vote. And if you don't come back, then they have a quarrel with you and so forth. And all of that was not there before. And this is something we need to get out of the system. And I think a Freedom Party government would clean that up, bring it to the days where people belong to a country and a country catered for its human capital, and we train them with the country's resources, and they mustn't feel that the prime minister or the Labour Party give them a scholarship. I know a number of persons that Ms. Charles helped personally from her own resources. And she died, and these people would say to you, you're not even to study, and Ms. Charles who sponsored me. She never spoke about it from her own resources. That one day is taking the country's resources to play their red politics with it and so forth. And I think all of this has to clean up, and unless we can clean it up. Now, the Freedom Party, I was saying, a young person who asked me about the Freedom Party, I was saying the Freedom Party, if you look at the history, it's a party of young people. It's a party of women, party of everybody. We are the first party that appointed Leonard Honeychurch, Dr. Honeychurch today, as a senator in Parliament at 21 years old. He was brought to England in 1977 with the Freedom Party delegation as a young man to negotiate independence for Dominica. I was in my 20s when I became a member of Parliament. Ozzy Walsh, Jerry Samuel, all these persons serve as young people in Parliament. You heard it talk about, well, as if it's first time young people get into Parliament under this government. That is not the case. Now, I mean, if you look at it, we have a track record of having the first woman prime minister who encouraged women into politics. And Ms. Charles took all of these blows as a woman just to pave the way for other women to get involved and to participate in politics. And I love women in politics because, I mean, they are good on details. They're good on details, they're good on planning. And therefore, we need to have a collaboration of men and women, young people, and the experienced persons to really form that team for the good of our country.
We have a couple questions coming in Let's see. I'll start with some of the earlier ones. Peter had some questions about how do we put this vision into simpler form for the man in the street. Agreed, Peter. This forum here, this particular presentation is aimed at a particular segment. But certainly, when we go out into the communities and when we're out there on the stump, we will pitch this in a way, hopefully, and that's part of marketing, right? We've got to figure out how to get this same emotional message and same intellectual message out in a form that works for the average man on the ground. So that's part of our planning and strategy, and we're working on that to get that out there. And I guess that goes along with your second question about what is the party strategy to get into government. I mean, the strategy is straightforward. The first thing we've got to show is there's a feeling that if there's not Skerrit, who else? We've got to demolish that myth. There are many capable people that are better than Skerrit and his government to run the country. So we've got to go on after that pillar and knock it down. We also have to show that, as we started showing here, that the DLP has not advanced the country in any form from a true development, authentic development point of view. We've got to keep reiterating that it's a bling economy and go at every opportunity, go after his claims of development by showing the fact that it's bling and showing the alternative of what a real plan and a real economic approach could have been. So we've got to keep bringing that down. It's a matter of legitimacy, you see. As long as people, and many people still view him as a legitimate, effective leader, and we must go after that position. You will see him position himself time and time again. He will position himself by false PhDs. He will position himself as competent by targeting specific areas that he has done something in. And he's also doing something now with religion. He's positioning himself as the vessel of God. You know, he wants people to pray, and God has blessed the country through Skerrit. That's why there is no COVID cases. And so we've got to go after all this ridiculous marketing position, because he's been advised by people who know marketing how to position and to appeal to the Dominican psyche. And so we've got to go after that in all those dimensions. We've got to position ourselves as more competent, more capable, but above all, clean. People who are here, good-natured people who are here to make a sacrifice for the country and to position ourselves in that manner. But that's the big picture. But there are many tactical issues we have to address to get that message really resonating and to compete for the mind's share of Dominicans.
And I think we have to be very brave and consistent in saying the truth, and do not apologize for saying the truth and standing for integrity. In fact, I heard the Prime Minister on the 6 o'clock news tonight saying that when he came into government, only 40% of the island had pipe-borne water. And I'm saying 40% pipe-borne water. So I call a guy from the Vasco and tell me this guy is an A. Respect your face. This guy is an A. You know, because I mean, the amount of work that was done, I can understand if he says that they have improved on the system in some areas, because as people build, the pressure build on the small system that were there. But if there was a small system and you put a bigger system, doesn't mean there was not a system before. You improve on the system, but just to look good in the eyes of the people, you tell them what they want to hear. And the funny thing about that, the sad thing about that, not funny, the sad thing about that is people who knows better will not confront them. I mean, you had former Freedom Party ministers who, to me, I could never sit around a table with your party, because I could not sit and hear them say Freedom did nothing and clap. And I'm saying former ministers like Henry George and these guys, Sorrento, they're wrong providing chairs and so forth for this guy, talking foolishness. So what is your own self-value? What you know? It shows that as a person people value before, and so as a model, a role model, you have come down so low in your older age that it really affects the country in a very, very bad way, because I could not sit around the table or in any forum with them and hear them say these things and don't object. You
Yeah.
know?
Margot had a question. Plantains rotting on the ground, mangoes and so on. Also, we have the factories to manufacture so many of our natural resources on the island. And she's making the point that basically we agree with you, Margot, that the productive manufacturing capacity, the capacity to create value, the capacity to make things. And beyond that, the most critical thing is the know-how that resides in the brains, the hands, the muscle memory, the skills that develop over time in your people. When you don't have those sectors, you actually lose that. For example, and that actually is what drives economic development. If you think about it, after the Second World War, Germany was devastated. Their physical capital was gone. There were no factories. There was nothing. It was a wasteland. Yet, with a little capital injection, Germany was able within 20 years to become one of the wealthiest countries in the world again, at the top 5. How was that possible? Because what was not destroyed during the war and the bombing campaigns was the capacity, capability of its people, the know-how, the expertise, the knowledge of how to make things, do things, operate things, run things, run organizations, build things, engineer things, design things. None of that was destroyed because that was resident in the head of the people. And so if something applies to us, it should be even more relevant to us because we're prone to natural disasters. So we need to transform our economy into an economy that's an intellectual economy. It's in our heads, in our skills of our brains. So when the physical capital goes down, we come roaring back very quickly because the physical infrastructure can quickly be put back together. But the capacity of our economy doesn't reside there. It resides in our minds, ability to, our know-how of things to do things. And I agree with you. So it's a shame that we don't have a robust agricultural agro-processing industry. It's a shame we don't have a robust spice producing industry in the country where we target niche markets in the United States and elsewhere and with organic stores or specialty stores and cut 1 or 2 deals. That's all we need. We need one deal with Walmart and we probably can't supply that. We need one deal with Target, or we need one deal with Whole Foods, or we need one deal with World Market. And many of these little independent stores that actually delight in buying products from the third world countries because this shows they have a social conscience, and then there is hip for people to sell that kind of stuff that is helping economic development in other nations. And so it's just a failure of imagination. We should have a full team of marketing experts for all of our products resident in the United States. We're taking $1 billion to build an airport. We can't take $10 million and fund for the next 5 years a team of professional, well-trained Dominicans located in major metropolitan areas to cut deals and to work deals and to walk down the hallways of corporations and get these deals done and supplied. It's just a failure of imagination. It's a failure of professionalism. And so I totally agree that we should have, beyond the plantain factory, there should be no fruits rotting in Dominica, period. James had another question about the human resource development plans. I agree. I mean, I think we said it earlier. We need to understand, we need to sit down as a nation, as a government, certainly, and say, what do we need to build this country into a first world nation in 30 years? We need to set a big dream, big vision, get everybody to buy into this. And then we need to sit down and say, what is it going to take to get there in 30 years? And develop a skills matrix and say, okay, this kid is in first form. When that kid graduates in 5 years from now, here is where he fits into this vision. And this kid that's in elementary school, when he gets into high school, here is where he fits in. And at the state college, this is what they need to be learning. Not only that, when we're going to send this many kids to Harvard, we're going to send this many kids to MIT, we're going to send them to London School of Economics. We have a plan to send the best and brightest to the best schools in the world, targeted our target industries, and bring those kids back with an incentive of, hey, you are an ambassador to build a country. Where else are you going to get the opportunity to build a first world nation? Where else are you going to get the opportunity to be on the ground floor of a transformation of a black nation into a first world country? Here is where you're going to get the opportunity. And we need to inspire, coach, manage that process and motivate us to work at that goal. and to develop a skills matrix, as I said, that has targeted sectors and targets our economic development. But right now we have none of that. We just have a helter-skelter thing. If you're a labor supporter, they'll give you a scholarship, and what do you want to study? You want to study whatever it is that you want to study. There is no plan. There is no mission. And so I totally agree that we need to have a human resource plan. Absolutely, that should be front and center at every cabinet meeting. So, boss, so someone is asking about what, well, they're saying everyone is asking about the young people, but we believe the implementation of strong economic policies will benefit the entire nation. So, what are your thoughts on that? I tend to agree with that.
Oh yes. I mean, because you want to build an economy that will benefit everybody. Because the young person have a father and has a mother, and they have to survive too. So it's not only brilliant for young people, but young people must have a seat at the table, as you rightly said. And that's the mission, to build a strong economy, that farmers can impact it, fishermen can impact it, just name it.
We have an interesting comment, and Ashley, maybe you can put that one online. I find it interesting. If you want to be taken seriously, stop lambasting Skerrit and offer a realistic and practical response to Skerritism. Well, I think that's what we just did, right? What we're saying is Skerritism offers band-aids, and they offer a very superficial approach to developing our country. They offer a few handouts, a few $100s here and there. They pave a few roads. They for a few fetes. They repair a stadium here and there. They do some painting on the courtyard here and there. They hand out a few homes. They build a few apartments. But what else, really? If you look at the reality, what else has the DLP offered? And so that's what we're saying. We're saying is, well, the alternative to Skerritism is an authentic approach to development. We're saying we want to sit down at our schools and develop curriculums that make sense for our country, and we'll do that in the first couple of years of our administration. We will have people and identify qualified, competent Dominicans around the world who will work with the government and work with the society to cut deals and to walk the hallways of industry overseas and in the metropolitan areas, and people who are competent in those fields and in those realms, and to get deals cut and made and businesses opportunities opened up for our country. We will sit down and we will say, look, we're going to sell passports. We do not intend to end that program. There will be a control process, and there will be a better approach to an accountability process. But those funds that we raise in the sort of economic programs, and I think it has to be slowed down, but there will still be some element of that. Those funds are going to be invested in productive capacity. They will not be used to pay salaries of civil servants, because we do not have an economic base, so he has no choice. They will not be used to throw fetes and to invite people to come down and have a big theatrical productions to win votes. We will not take that money. We will take that money and we will put $20 million into a venture capital fund and say, if you're qualified Dominican, you're passionate, you can present your idea. We'll have a qualified panelist who can judge it. We will have people who can help you to steer your enterprise forward, people who know business and how to make it grow. Fine, we'll put $50 million into that venture capital fund, and you will get that money with some oversight. And that's the sort of things that we're talking about that will truly transform our country. And that is different from Skerritism. I hope you would appreciate it. Of course, with no political strings attached. In fact, the first person I would look to give one of those grants would be the most ardent and diehard red labor supporter who is qualified, competent, and capable, and say, you are our target audience here.
And I just wanted to say something too on what Chevelle is saying. Not just what the parties will do for young people or what will I get, and that kind of dependent mentality that has been inculcated in our people needs to be eradicated. That's the comment by Chevelle Abraham. And it's one of the reasons we are here. I mean, it brings back to mind again, not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. The Freedom Party has its vision, it has its mission. But one of the reasons we are here is also to get you involved in that vision and that mission, is to get you involved, is to say to you, come on board with us, join us in what we want to do. We can only do this thing together. The people within the party who are already within the party, and I mean the membership is growing. I'm very impressed by that, but we need more. We need you to come on board as well and give us your ideas, give us your vision, give us your comments and your energy, your work, your intellect, your intelligence, your drive. Bring it with us. Join us and bring that with you, and let's see what we can do to make the Freedom Party the next government of Dominica.
And if we have to build a strong country, unity is key. And we have to coexist in a democracy. So obviously you'll have more than one party, and the other parties must have a chance to be able to bring out their message and their policy and vision to the country and encourage people to get involved. Now, a person in another party is not an enemy to you, should not be an enemy to you. They just don't share your point of view. And they have to be respected, and we should be able to build, because every citizen, irrespective of the party you support, you have a part to play in the country's development. And we have to have what they call civilized approach to politics. And if you look at it, I remember in the days of being in Parliament, you had the late Michael Douglas and these guys in Parliament, Miss Charles, and these people, and they were heated debates, but there was camaraderie. They stood for what they believe, they went at it, but at the end of the day, there was camaraderie. You laugh, you share a drink, you talk. And so, today in Dominica politics, it's like a cutthroat kind of politics. And that has to end, because a person in the UWP, in the APP, in the Freedom Party, in the Labour Party are Dominicans, and therefore we have to be ready to work together to build our country. Now, on the point of securitism and offering, that's what we're doing here, offering another side of the equation. And to solve a problem, you go to a doctor, you can't just prescribe medication to you unless he knows what your problem. You have to tell him how you're feeling, and he will sound you and examine you, and he will then diagnose the situation and recommend some medication. So we have to know what is there. And as a party, we have in our radio program, in other forums, we have commended the government when we think they do something good. When they do something that is not good, we criticize and show an alternative, how we would have done it as a party in government. And that's the spirit I think our politics require, and so forth. So the issue tonight is to show, and as we go forward, to show what the Freedom Party stands for, what the Freedom Party would want to do with the support and involvement of young people, women, the elderly, everybody, for the good of the country, and how we can collaborate, build a strong team for what is good for Dominica. And Dominica have to, even if we want to survive, we have to focus on ensuring that every dollar that comes to the country is spent on the country. For example, the only thing we have now that we can boast about as a country is the passport. And the Freedom Party have always said we're not totally opposed to the passport. It has to be done properly. And it should be icing on the cake, not something we depend on. Like neglecting agriculture, not doing the proper infrastructure for tourism, not encouraging industry and services, but just rely on selling passports. We cannot survive like that as a country. A few people will get rich, and the rest of us will just stay hanging around, and that has to stop.
Yeah, Chevelle raised a good point, which is put up here on the screen here. What are your plans to improve the importation duties? As she says, basically, it's strangling the economy. Chevelle, you are absolutely correct about this. In fact, any economist will tell you that that's a terrible, terrible policy, that you only do that as a last resort. But the sort of importation duties that we have absolutely strangles an economy. It's a travesty. It drives the cost of living way high in your country. It strangles economic activity, and it simply is terrible, terrible economics. Now, the only reason that there are the two reasons. I do not believe the Labour Party can be so incompetent and do not have any economic advisors who do not understand the impact of high import duties or tariffs on your economy. I simply cannot believe they don't know that. But the issue is, since there is no productive capacity within the country, the tax base is very small. And so they are forced to try to squeeze blood out of stones by squeezing it on imports, by raising it on import duties. But that's very short-sighted, because then you just make the economy smaller, and then you have to squeeze harder elsewhere, or do things like sell our country out from under us by passports alone. And so they're very short-sighted. They're not creating, as I said, the economic engine that will relieve the pressure. Because once your economy starts growing, you can certainly lower the tariffs. In fact, you need to make it low enough so that you have a good productive sector and you can compete in world markets. And it's just short-sighted. It's very short-sighted. It's a terrible thing, honestly. It's one of the worst policies that this current government has in place, is these high tariffs. They just simply, it's basic economics 101, that you don't do that. You strangle your economy to death. But again, the lack of imagination, the lack of investment in productive capacity, the lack of the ability to grow those productive sectors is what underlies all of this. This high cost of living, Dominic, is driven by a lack of imagination of the government to grow an economy that is sustainable and that is value added. Lennon, you raised an interesting point there. Why would we want to continue selling passports if we have an economy that works? Well, I think the thought process here is, I think it would be unwise to simply end the policy of economic citizenship by investment. But I certainly agree that because you need those funds, you need some level of funds. The issue has not been fundamentally about the economic citizen program. I think it's been way overblown, and we run the risk of diluting our native population, and so we have to control that and look at that and see how that works. But the major problem is the funds, the billions of dollars that have been raised, have not been invested into the productive capacity of the country. Had that been done, Dominica would have been a transformed country by now. Had we invested $2 billion into entrepreneurship, $100 million to entrepreneurship, $100 million to develop a smart economy, $100 million to marketing and refrigerated ships and developing our agriculture, Dominica would be unrecognizable. But the problem is that money has not been invested. So once we invest, though, and we get to the point where we no longer have to do that, I think that the program has to be tailored off, because what you do after that is you're diluting your citizenship. But once we become a wealthy enough nation, no wealthy nation sells itself for a bowl of soup. No wealthy nations that is going to easily give you its passports. You're not going to go to the United States, which is a wealthy nation, and get economic citizenship for a few pennies, which is what we're doing now. So as our economic prospects increase, as the value of our economy goes up, that too will have to end.
I think a nice way of saying it is that the selling of passports must end, but economic citizenship in the true sense of the word need not end. You see, in the true sense of the word, economic citizenship, where persons see a nation that is worth investing in and spending serious monies in and say, I want to be a citizen of this nation. I am willing to invest this amount. I mean, all countries all over the world have that, you know, but not for a dollar, not for a dollar. And it has to be done properly. It has to be done under the proper scrutiny, and it has to be done well. It's not that the program itself cannot be done or ought not to be done, but it ought to be done properly.
And on the question of the import duties, when the government allow the pillars of the economy to fall apart or to even, be non-existent, then obviously some areas pay for it. So that, as Bernard said, you try to squeeze blood out of stone from certain areas. I remember when DCP was in full bloom producing soap and oil and so forth, and they had an issue because our main market was Jamaica and Trinidad. And when they had an issue, Philip Nassif would have right away called the Prime Minister. You will see a delegation of Ms. Charles Maynard, Minister of Trade, and Brian Arlene, and the technical people in the Ministry of Trade go to DCP, have a serious dialogue with the management there, and would understand the issue. And then the Prime Minister immediately get on the phone to Siaga and to Manning, or to Manning in Trinidad, and Siaga in Jamaica, and whoever else, and they work it out. I remember there was a time the Prime Minister made a visit to the United States, and the President Bush was out, and she was met by Dan Quayle, who was the Vice President. But she had to leave at a certain time to go to Cuba because Clark's had arranged for her to meet in Cuba to discuss Cuba as a market for our soap, so we could have Cuba as another area in which we could export soaps. And when she was about to leave, Dan Quayle said, well, why are you in the house to leave? She said, I have to go to Cuba. He said, why would you want to go to Cuba? She said, no, that's not your business. You are the President of the United States, Vice President of the United States, and I'm the Prime Minister of Dominica. You look after your interests, I look after my interests. And Fidel Castro made a statement that was one of the biggest statements that was made in Washington by a Caribbean leader that gave Cuba an opening for a lot of embassies. People came down to explore and open embassies in Cuba. Even if Ms. Charles was very friendly with the Republican Party and President Bush and so forth, as Prime Minister, she put her priority where it had to go and so forth. And in that case, people respect you and you stand strong among other leaders and so forth. So unless we could build the economy, agriculture has to be given some attention. It has to be done smartly. We can't do the same way we did it over the last 40 or so years, no. But we can't allow it to die because food security and it brings rural income and so forth. And the other thing too is industries. We used to produce things like soaps, yes. We used to produce plastic bags, candles, sandals, and those things in Dominica. We did those things and all disappear and so forth. So we can't just be a country just bring it in and we cannot send out and so forth. And therefore, when these economic pillars are built, it eases up the port in other areas.
Very good. And I see James raised an interesting question. James Joseph, have we embarked on building the nation? And that's a bit of a philosophical question. And I would say, to be frank, no, actually. I mean, I think we started the process in the 80s of come to grips after the turbulent 70s with governance and how we can stabilize the economy and make it safe and have good governance. I think the Freedom Party laid the foundation for that. And then, the next stage was supposed to be that growth of a nation. But what is a nation? We don't even ask the fundamental questions. A nation is more than just an island. A nation is an imagined community. It is a community that have common vision, common goals, common set of beliefs, and has a sense of destiny and has a sense of self. And often I don't think our leaders have understood that or have pursued, marshaling the human capital, our sense of self towards a common destiny, because over time, that sense of self becomes part of your identity. And so in order for us to be the Dominican nation, I say we have to set some kind of mission. We have to say we are people of African descent on a small island, and we have the best shot at showing the world that people of African descent can build a prosperous, clean, competent society. And that's the sense of mission we need to set, that we're a small island state, but we're going to be the next Israel, or we're going to be the next, Switzerland. We are going to be awesome people in this world. Big visions. We need to have a sense of self. We need to have leaders who come and talk about those things regularly and say, where are we today? Where are we this month? Where are we this year? Where are we going? Who are we? Why are we going there? And that's the sort of thing that you need to do to build a nation, to build a state. And to build a sense of movement. I visit China all the time, and I can tell you the Chinese people have a well-defined sense of self, of where they're going and what their mission is. Their mission is to be the United States, to be the #1 country in the world, and they work diligently day in and day out to do that, to rebirth the great Chinese nation, because China used to be the most advanced nation as recently as the 12th century. They were the greatest, most technologically, economically advanced nation on earth, and they fell way behind because they failed to embrace innovation. But they remember that. And their mission is to get back to that great sense of mission and that great sense of nation. And so what is our sense of nation? What is our sense of self? Beyond just hanging out Friday nights and having a few beers. We need a sense of self. We need a sense of mission. And so I will argue that our nationhood has not been defined properly. We've not had leaders to define it, to drive it, to motivate us to some overarching goal that then makes us coalesce into this body and into this nation.
Well, I see Peter is asking the question. Let me say hi to Peter. And he's asking that the courts and many institutions, such as the Electoral Commission, and such institutions are under the control of the current government. What is the plan to nullify their current bias, mood of operation? The same question applies to the investment of China and Venezuela into the Labour Party, the Dominica. Well, the Electoral Commission, these things work well before, they work and produce results and guide our, I'm not saying they were perfect, but guide our election and provided for and encouraged what we considered a level playing field in the past. It is since this guy came into government that these things have been, messed up and politicized. And even on the Electoral Commission, you have the two persons appointed by the opposition, by the president on the advice of the opposition leader. They've had a hard time over the last couple of years or so, 5 years or so, with Burton, and who was appointed by the president, and the two persons that was appointed by the president on the advice of the prime minister. Now they have a new chairman now, and this new chairman, to me, you expect it to bring some new life, new respect, new, professionalism in that field. And to me, it is just dead. So we have to get those commissions to do their work and do their work on behalf of not parties, but country and so forth. And that's the struggle that we have. In terms of the question of China and Venezuela, well, the party leader and myself met with the charge d'affaires and secretary at the embassy here in Dominica, and we spoke. We were very frank. I think they were very appreciative. They may, in their heart, felt a bit, challenged on how they operate here, because we did not mix words with them. And we told them, for example, we're thankful for what they have been doing in terms of hospitals and health centers and so forth. But we think that in itself is not all. We need to get our people up, that they themselves, or people can do those maintenance and those buildings and so forth. So we need to build our capacity as a country. We can't be relying for the rest of our lives on handouts from other countries and so forth. And we did make the point to them that the way things are, it looked like, and the way Labour Party come across, the relationship is not with the country, it's with the Labour Party. And therefore, the whole country cannot come together in a mood of appreciation to them, since it has been divided on political line. And they need to rethink that operation and see how they have a responsibility in a country to relate to the government, but it mustn't be at the expense of destroying democracy and destroying fairness. And we made this point. In fact, when they took us on a tour, and I will tell you, and the secretary and myself was under the same umbrella walking, and we were at the front of the charge. He told me in all the groups they have met, including the government, the two of us from Freedom Party were the two that had what he considered a sound approach to where we went to see Dominica. When they went to the government, they asked for school bags and toys and those kind of little petty things. And certain things, agriculture and those things, and even scholarship to China, is not an invention of the government. It's they who offer that. They who offer that to the government, or the government they negotiate that, and so forth. And you were saying that you all come across very well organized and know what you all want for your country, and that is good. But I will tell you again that the Shah himself said to us, they give to the government what the government asks them for. So if the government asks them for a pencil, they give a pencil. The government asks them for, in other words, that government has no very solid understanding of how to operate in the diplomatic world to the benefit of the country and its people.
Very good, Bosso. I see G-Man had a question. In developing Dominica, what will be Dominica's niche marketing throughout the Caribbean and the world? What exactly will Dominica be known for? Well, that's the key question, right? We need to do that, right? We need to be known for something. When the nature island of the Caribbean is mentioned, that's just marketing, there should, when you see Coca-Cola, you know what it's about, right? So there should be that for sure. Now, what should that be? I think it has to be, as I said earlier, I think we need to be the organic island. We need to be known. We need to do interesting things that get the world's attention. We need to be 100% organic island, or what they call now blue green zone islands, right? 100% organic, the best organic island, the best and the most nutritious food. We got to brand that. We got to be known for that. Niche thing, cocoa and coffee and chocolates and various spices and so on. We just need to be known as this island, this mystical island that has this super abundant volcanic productive soil, this exotic soil, this wild exuberant rainfall that makes things grow like crazy, and it just gives us a sort of terroir that gives us a special flavor and a special health to our foods. We got to craft that message because that's mostly true. In fact, France will sell wine to you based on what they call the terroir, where it grew, and this particular environment gives particular flavors. And so we got to figure out our flavor base based on our soils and our rainfall patterns, and then figure out who likes and loves that flavor base, and then market to that niche. And then that's one thing. We also got to be known as the island as 100% green, right? 100% sustainable energy, no importation of fossil fuels. We got to get on CNN, the first nation to go 100% green, and we supply green energy to our neighbors. And then finally, we just got to be, frankly, we got to be known as one of the most technologically advanced Black societies on the face of the earth, because we can do it. We dream the small things, sometimes, but we can do big things. We can dream big things because we're small. Being small gives us the ability to make these extravagant claims. It's not easy for a huge nation like India to say, well, we're the number one technological system, we've got the most trained, blah, 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 because there are billions of people. But when you're talking about, a small nation like us, we can do these marketing things by being the best and the whatever. And I think being the first Black nation that grasps the fourth industrial revolution and leads, we can become known for that. We'll be celebrities on the world stage, and that's what we need to go for. And it's not a pipe dream. These things are not esoteric, unattainable things. These are simply sending people to school for 4 years to study the relevant disciplines and go off and work in those areas. And it happens every day. There are thousands of Dominicans out there working in those fields. But why do I focus on this? Because it is where the growth is. If any do a bit of research, it will show you that the growth is in those fourth industrial engines. And so we have to jump on that. So what do we become known for? We become known for that. We become known for an organic nation. We become known for a green energy nation. You put those two things together and we become a very powerful, very well-branded nation in the world. I think G-Man had a follow-up, it looks like. Well, I think go ahead, boss.
Yeah, I see exactly, somebody said exactly. So
What are
with
some of the
this in
policies you'd
mind,
like to explore and
am I
realize?
done? Yes, with this in mind, what are some of your policies you'd like to explore and realize in this niche? I guess you're talking about this niche market.
Yeah, what I just mentioned.
Just spoke about. And I mean, we've had a lot of stuff here in Dominica that people in the rest of the region, look forward to and appreciated. It's a pity that Bello went out of the market, went out of existence, but the Bello product was a very good product that people all over the region would look forward to, would buy, and when we were traveling, would ask to take to them. And I think they were doing well there, but they went out of business, so we are not blaming government for that and so forth. But you made the point of cocoa and coffee and those stuff. And I think our pepper had a very good name on the pepper sauce on the regional market. And so I mean, our soap had a good name there too. I see we're trying to see how we could get the soap back to revive the soap factory. But the sad thing is, they gave millions of dollars to one person to do the trial of bringing the factory back to life as Evo. And I'm seeing people, when I'm passing, people going back and forth to work there. So there are a few people engaged. But in terms of anything that is substantial, I do not know yet where we go with that and so forth. But we have to, a lot of our agricultural produce will being, something that the region appreciated. I think we have some challenges now with other countries like St. Vincent and so forth, producing and selling in a lot of the areas we sold before. But there is a need to explore and see. I mean, candles were a thing that people came here but buy candles. When I worked with fisheries agriculture, people came here to buy prawns and so forth. So there's a lot of things, aquaculture, a lot of things that we can do here that could give us additional income as a people. But we have to develop something and get it to be appreciated and to, serve in the region or further afield.
Yeah,
So
I think we're right at the 9 o'clock hour. I think we started a little bit late, so we'll probably take it to no later than 9:15, so folks have a sense of this. So we'll wrap it up here in the next few minutes. But we appreciate you guys joining. So maybe an additional comment on that, boss. So in terms of specific policies, you're completely right. That's this approach we need to do, and we have done the Freedom Party some of those things in the past. I would say, as a couple specific policies, I would immediately shunt. Like I said, we are raising millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars for passport sales. I would immediately designate $10-20 million to marketing and establishing niche offices around the metropolitan world, so that we market and seek opportunities for Dominican products with major companies and other organizations that can help us. That would include doing things like immediately buying refrigerated shipping and any other sort of infrastructure we need to get the logistics working. That's just ridiculous. We could be supplying regionally tons and tons of produce. I mean, it's been shown. We simply do not have the investment in the transportation infrastructure, and that's just ridiculous. That really is ridiculous. The amount of money that we spend on a couple Labour Party celebrations and bringing in artists and so on to the tune of $250,000 could easily purchase a vessel, and so there's just no excuse for that. So we would immediately do that. We would fix the infrastructure necessary to get our agricultural produce moving. We'd invest in offices and personnel overseas to cut deals with the relevant companies, and we would invest, $50 million into establishing labs, but modern labs, really just technology packs, so that we can fund and send young people to train and come back and fund them to work in this technology labs, and to cut deals with companies overseas working in these industries, to have them employed for these companies, and to immediately develop that capacity to start playing in those markets, because it's a ratchet effect. Once you show you're capable, you're competent, you have smart people that can do it, and other companies join in, and so forth and so on, and you grow and expand that core. So that would be immediately what policies we would try to implement.
In fact, just to add that quickly though, when we were part of the coalition, we had a meeting with Roosevelt Skerry, this prime minister. When we became part of ALBA, we were the first English-speaking Caribbean country that became a member of ALBA. And ALBA was opening a bank, and they were putting $1 billion in that bank. We advised that let's see if we can get the ALBA bank to be located in Dominica's headquarters. So we wanted to create some jobs. They might bring they would bring some of their top people, but some people here would be employed, and probably a building would be rented here, and some money would be, circulating here from that. We lose that. We told them that there was talk about building mega ships, and the island with a mega ship port would benefit from the tourists coming into that port, and then that port can distribute them into smaller ships to other Caribbean destinations. And we said, why not, let's look at Point Wrong and take a loan from the ALBA Bank and move into building the megaship port as a major infrastructure at Point Wrong. So we'll be one of the leading countries doing that, and therefore we'll be able now to attract the tourists, that kind of movement of the tourists into us. St. Kitts has moved ahead, and they are well advanced in that. They never bothered. We told them, why not, since we have the Chinese here, let the Chinese bring in computer parts and cell phone parts. They can use 2, 3, 4 factory shells at Kinfield, employ our young people, and we could build. They bring the parts and build it here. It become a CARICOM product, because we're part of CARICOM OECS, and we create jobs. Even that failed, because as far as they're concerned, if you are employed and you are earning, you are independent. You're not dependent on them. You're not independent, and you're dependent on them. But if you are not employed and you can come to Red Clinic, then obviously you've been controlled, and so forth. They'll never get off the ground. And these are some initiatives that we lost over the years that could have come to Dominica. Look now here in St. Lucia, for example, the Miami tourism people were looking for a base in the Caribbean where they can move to if they have certain issues in the US and they need to go out for shelter in the region. And Shasta have offered them that, and I understand. So major of that facility is going on in Viewfort and so forth, St. Lucia. So we have to be actively pursuing opportunities for our country that will create jobs, build our economy, and give people opportunity. We have to be active. We can't be just sitting there and relax and just feel that is it, we're in power. We sell a few passports and that's it. I mean, I was reading where St. Vincent sold the passport, the economy is better than our economy. The economy is better than ours. And we have brought a lot of billions here, and where it is. I mean, the housing component that you're seeing now is because the opposition criticized the handle of the resources, but the government rushed to the houses to justify the expenditure. But before that, there were no houses being built, and I mean, people are fair and honest, they will say those things, and so forth. Right. Now, St. Kitts, quickly, St. Kitts, you go to St. Kitts, and you see movement. I left here just for the COVID in 2000. I left it was either February or January of 2000. And I went to St. Lucia. I went the Friday, I came back the Sunday. And when I saw the kind of movement in St. Lucia, I was in the hotel and the whole counter and the bar was taken up with people at night. And out there on the street had bars, makeup, and people there doing their thing, young people in their uniform. When I came back here this Sunday, I just felt I came from somewhere active to somewhere inactive. Although Dominica is my country, whatever it is, I appreciate. When I say appreciate, don't mean it must stay so, but I mean your country is your country. But you feel where you have just came back from somewhere where you see life and movement, people engaged, young people earning, to a place where you come to the port in Rosewood there. I come in at night and you see a dead place. The place is poorly lit and all of that and so forth. So it tells you we have work to do.
Yeah.
Freedom Party is the vehicle to get us there.
For sure. So we have just a few minutes left. Let's pivot to a couple of things. I think we want to appeal to all the participants, and the questions being raised in terms of how do we grow the DFP membership and what strategies can we use to expand that membership. And we won't get into a lot of that here, but we do want to invite every one of you on tonight's program to that we feel we can sense that you share that vision, that mission with us, right? I mean, you feel that there's a better Dominica possible. And so we want you to join hands with us in that mission, right? We're trying to light that fire and spearhead the mission, and we work night and day to make that vision happen. But we need you to join hands with us. We need you to join with us. We need you to contribute. We need you to donate. We need you to be volunteers. We need you to be advisors. You can be behind the scenes. You can be overt. You can be covert. But we need you. Leadership is nothing without followership. And and it's a movement. We need to build the Dominica. We need to build the Dominica's movement. And so we're working on plans. We're working on strategies. We're building our war chest. We're trying to build our donation strategies. We're putting together our organizational capacity so that we can push and spread the message and build the marketing plans that we need to get it out there. But I don't want the night to end without directly appealing to each one of you. We have put up the website there. We have a PayPal account you've seen there. We have an national bank account. Please, if you believe in this mission, if you believe in the possibilities, if you believe that we can make this thing happen, and we know we can, with enough hands joined together and enough people believing that we can. And we want to appeal to you to help us get there financially, bodies, expertise, whatever way you can help. We invite you to join hands. Let's get the 21st century, the first world nation country. This mission starts now.
Yes, we want the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. So if you can give us some of your time, give us some of your talent, give us some of your treasure, we can do it. We can do this.
And bear in mind, the Freedom Party is a big church, a big tent. So everybody is welcome to join, to be part of the party, to follow membership form and become a card-carrying member of the party, where you'll be integrally involved in decision-making and in that process of the party going forward. A big tent, a big church, and so forth. We're a party of integrity, a party that believe in law and order, disciplined party that's want to grow a country and make it better for all citizens. Now, while I'm on that though, tomorrow night is our radio program. On Q95, we will be on, and we'll have the party leader will be on. We'll have Gerard Latouche, who's a Dominican who lives in the United Kingdom, will be on for us as well, and Alvin Thomas will be on. And Michael Stefan will be discussing the state of governance in the country. So we just explore and take certain things into account and see where we are, where we came from, and where we should go with good and responsible governance in our country. So we invite you tomorrow night to also join. Be on our Facebook page, and of course, I think YouTube as well. So you can join. This medium will be used as well to make sure we have as many listeners as possible listening online as well as on the radio itself. So tomorrow night.
Yes, very good.
Just before we leave, I didn't want to quite ignore Margot's question here. Margot had asked, what is your approach in applying restrictions on human encroachment in the forest, buffer zones, riverbanks, dredging, mining, and improper construction, waste disposal? So we don't have much time, to really get into it. But Margot, if you have any views on that, feel free, to send us whatever your views on. It seems like something that you are passionate about. And, whatever your views are, please feel free to send that in. I have some views on it myself. Time. So time is restricting us, but feel free to send that in. I just didn't want the night to end without us just acknowledging that question that she put out there.
Very good. And we will have follow-ups. We're going to do this regularly. Yes. So we will have an opportunity. Please join back and we can deal with your question first, because environmental friendliness and having a sustainable country is near and dear to us as well. So certainly we'd be happy to tackle that in our next conversation, maybe in the next 2 weeks or so.
But I think we should be pursuing an active replanting, trees replanting program in the forest. Since Hurricane Maria, the forest got a bit disorganized. It needs to be reorganized. I know the boy we're planting tree. I don't know why we're not planting tree again.
Very good. All right, so it's 9:15. I want to keep to my commitment. Give you guys back your lives. Thanks so much for joining us. We really wanted to have this dialogue. This is not the end. This is the beginning, and we will be doing this regularly. We want to reach out to folks like you who have an interest in plans and Dominicans generally. And we really appreciate you taking time off in your night to give us a listening ear and to join and to energize us and to re-energize us to know that there are people out there who share this vision that we have of making this a great country. And we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And as we said, I think together we can do this thing. We all have weaknesses and flaws, but together we can put together a very powerful entity where we compensate for each other and we make it work. And so that's what a nation should be about. And that's the mission that we're on. So thanks so much again for coming out tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, good night.
Good night.